Hello, everybody. I've got Galileo De Obaldia with me. How are you, Gali?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Okay. Let's get right down to it. You are a three-time nationals champion. I mean, there aren't many there aren't many people with three titles in the nationals before. So how does it feel to be three-time national champion?
Well, it obviously feels really good. As far as I'm aware, Sebastian Gonzalez, my good friend, he's the only other three-time national champ.
Yep.
He came second this year. He was going to win his fourth, so I actually caught up with him. It, it feels really good. I wish I was going to Worlds again. That's my only regret. But apart from that, it feels really good to have won three times.
Yeah. It's only Sebastian, and shame about the worlds. So how did you do in this World Championship qualifier this year?
Well, the format for Latin America is you have all the national championships, and then you have the WCQ, which is like Euros.
Yeah.
But we only have one spot. I went 8-1, losing only to Dragons, and then day two I lost in top 16 to pretty much unplayable situations versus Dark World.
Yeah, the Dark Worlds. They are a pain to play against. All right, cool. So everybody's wondering. The format is a bit different from 3 or 4 years ago, where there's one top deck that wins everything, and you don't really need to side anything against anything else. Everything else is tier two, and only one deck is dominant. I'm talking about like the Teledad format and the Return Dad format. Those formats years ago, but now we're in a format that's completely different with loads of different decks. So, what's your analysis of the format, and what do you think is the best deck and why?
Well, as you mentioned, it's very varied. You have dragons, windows, insectors, rabbit, all which are really good. And there's other strategies which aren't really that bad. You've got the Dark World, which appeared out of nowhere and knocked me out. It won YCS 100. So you have a really varied meta, which makes it slightly harder. It's not necessarily better, but it is different. So having the main deck very stable to be able to deal with all those different things is very important. Which is the reason why I prefer Rabbit, because it has the best overall matchup and it doesn't get shut down as easily by the side deck. Take Insectus for example. If they have a macro, if you have a single out to that, then it's pretty much all a lose. So I thought that's why Rabbit's the best deck. As
Right.
for anything else, it's just the side deck. Important cards which are powerful yet versatile. You have to be able to deal with all the different matchups. Before I used to side 3 Decrees. Now I can't side Decree. I side those Tornadoes because it helps me versus other matchups. And just it was the hardest part of building the deck because I had originally I didn't have Maxis, and then when I was playing versus Windows, it was just really hard. So having that extra hand trap to go along with the Veilers was really important. So the side deck in a varied meta is even more important than before.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
completely
pretty
agree.
much what I think of the format.
I completely agree. The format is so diverse these days. Anything that you do side against one type of decks or main against one type of decks will be kind of bad against other type of decks. So it's kind of contradictory format. Even though people don't, there's a huge stigma around playing Dino Rabbits being a simplified deck, being a mindless kind of deck, as some people like to put it. It's still the right choice in terms of balance. Most of us think. All right, so the winning deck that you took to nationals and the one where you ended up top 16 in your WCQ is a Dino Rabbit deck that's a bit special. Your Dino Rabbit deck ran three safe zones in the main deck. Now I have heard about this strategy before, but you are the first person who has ever been successful with this strategy in Dino Rabbit. So can you just explain how it works?
Well, Saison does a little bit of everything. Um, what I found about the rabbit deck, even though there will be some games where you go turn one rabbit, turn two tour guide, and pretty much a win, it doesn't always happen. So in the mirror match versus Insectors versus Heroes, which the last two were huge in Panama at the time, and also Saison being amazing versus Dragons. it was grinding out the games that you shouldn't win, which made me run safe zone. What I mean by this is, versus in sectors, you can't leave a dead cat on the field because it'll just get popped and they'll go for pluses. So safe zone, you can just safe zone works as kind of removal because they'll pop and then you just pop that stuff. Versus dragons, you go Dolka safe zone and they have what, one heavy storm as an out. They don't have many more outs. And dragon originally is a pretty bad matchup. Game one, safe zone turns that around. For example, a game my opponent opened Future Fusion and all that stuff. I put Rabbit, Dolka, and just grind it out. You go Dolka over Pulsar, you go Lance, Chalice, and they can't red ice it back. So you slowly grind the game out when they just start running out of power cards. And any outs they have to the safe zone, which are Lila, Riku, I have the Chalice, the Dolka itself, the Veilers. So basically, it just worked as an overall strategy to grind out those games. Versus heroes, chaining it to removal or with lances, you just grind out those games versus the little monsters. And it's just overall a really amazing card. The only not so great matchup is Rabbit, and even then it's really not that bad. I just thought it just gave me the surprise factor and the factor that I could grind games out that I shouldn't win. I'd open multiple vanillas and still win and grind games out with safe zone. As well as if you go Rabbit and they go Veiler, that's another way to protect the Rabbit. So they need two ways to stop it. The Veiler person and then another one. And I could have multiple safe zones or MSDs or heavies or lances for the next turn. So it would push my plays through offensively and defensively and work as removal as well. So really, it just does a little bit of everything.
All right, that's really cool. Just as a finishing questions, I see this question being asked by everybody. So I would like to know your opinion. Coming up to the 2012 September ban list, what do you think should change?
Wow, you caught me off guard with that one. I think probably Monster Reborn. That's the one top of mind card that should go. But overall, it's hard, you know. You'll make changes and something else will come up. It's always the same thing. So I pretty much like to deal with the format that comes along. Monster Reborn. There's too much not Hornet. Dragonfly. Dragonfly's an issue. I don't know if Rabbit's an issue. Maybe it is. Maybe Sangan should go. Pot of Avarice, maybe. Pot of Avarice, cycling back the vanillas, cycling back the wind-ups for them to complete the loop. Big card. So probably, if I had to say top of mind, I'd say Pot of Avarice, Monster Reborn, and Dragonfly, maybe.
All right. Not Future Fusion?
Oh, Future Fusion. I forgot.
Yeah.
That's a super card.
You did mention something that's quite interesting that most people don't really mention. Like most people just most people have in their minds what exactly they want banned, restricted, and everything. But you said something that you just would like to deal with the format as it comes, and that's kind of refreshing because most people will just blame certain cards for their losses, whereas we're all in the same format and everyone is just trying to outdo each other. So there's no point really complaining about a certain format. But I totally agree with that.
It's a card game. There's always going to be luck involved.
Yep.
Something I pride myself in is I've always been consistent. From memory, the only format I wasn't that consistent was I can't remember, but there was one format where I wasn't that great. But the other formats, I've always been consistent. That's why I've always done decently well at all events. I don't always win, but I do okay. So really, it's just about adjusting. It's all the same.
It's about
every
adapting.
Format,
yep.
Something different comes up. You just have to learn to adjust and deal with it.
I agree. I completely agree. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Gali. We will definitely be hearing from you in the future, and good luck.
All right. Thanks, Simon.